The tasks that are part of a writer's job can feel endless. I mean, the writing is just the tip of the iceberg. You've got editing, formatting, blogging to promote yourself. You've got creating graphics for your social media. You've got maybe some podcasting, some querying, and that just is part of it. It just goes on and on and on because each of these tasks can be broken into a gazillion more micro tasks. And the funny thing is that when I say the word productivity to a writer, sometimes they totally freak out. Many writers seem to feel that they are artists, they are creatives, and the idea of being productive really sucks. Because here's the thing. Writing is often part of our lives that we need to fit in amongst all the other things. And so we lie to ourselves. We tell ourselves, oh, it should be fun. Oh, it should be loosey-goosey. Oh, it should be fitting into my life and it'll just happen. But that's not the truth. Productivity is essential for writers because it directly affects your ability to achieve your writing goals. There are many reasons for this, and that's why in this podcast, I wanted us to talk about productivity hacks for writers. We're going to start out talking about why productivity is so important and what some of the main productivity hacks are, and then we're going to kind of buckle down and talk about really specific things such as batching, reusing content, doing sprints, and also we're going to be talking about the brain science behind productivity because I cannot stress enough how important this is for writers who are hoping to move their writing career forward. Without productivity, there is no true creativity because it's no use if your book just exists in your mind with nobody to see it. You need to get it out there, and that's part of productivity. So let's get started in this very important episode of the How to Be an Author podcast. If you're a writer dreaming of becoming a successful author, join me, Writing Coach Karena Akhavein, on the How to Be an Author podcast, your weekly source for writing information, inspiration, and motivation. Hey, welcome to the How to Be an Author podcast. I am Writing Coach Karena Akhavein. It is my goal in life to help writers like you go from aspiring to successful, no matter where you may be on that sliding scale right now. Let's talk productivity because it is essential for writers. It directly affects your ability to achieve your writing goals, and I want you to hit your writing goals. I want you to be clear about those goals, and I want you to get to them before it is too late and before you just kind of time out, because that's the reality of our lives. So what is so important in terms of productivity? First of all, writers have deadlines to meet. Whether it's a book, an article, the next chapter, a blog post, or anything else, being productive helps writers to meet these everyday deadlines. Because if you don't meet your deadlines, there is always a consequence. Even if that consequence is only stress and guilt, you're going to have consequences that come with missing deadlines. If you consistently miss deadlines that are either imposed by your editor or your agent or imposed by yourself, you're not going to be getting very far. Many of you think that productivity is the antithesis of the artistic part of writing, but that's not true. Actually, studies have shown that your writing will improve in quality if you actually are more productive in all kinds of different realms, because it means that you're able to spend more time on each writing task. And this leads to improved quality. When writers are able to work more efficiently and to focus on their writing, they're much more likely to produce higher quality work. This is crucial when it comes to building a writing career. Being productive is one of the main ingredients to writers who are actually hoping to build a writing career as opposed to just writing for fun. This is because, as I said, the more work you're able to produce, the more opportunities you have to get it published or to gain exposure. I have said many times on this podcast that the best way to market your work is to write another book. Yeah, you're going to need some productivity for that. Productivity is also really important when it comes to managing your time more effectively. I had talked about how many of us writers balance writing with other commitments. We've got work, family, other projects, and it's really hard to find time to write. That's why you have to make time to write. And managing your time and being productive is integral to that. And again, I talked about the guilt that comes from not doing what you're supposed to be doing. Definitely when you're productive and you're able to complete your work, you are going to be reducing the stress and the pressure that are associated with writing when you're not doing it. When you're feeling guilty about not writing, or when you know in the back of your mind that you're not getting things done the way you wanted to do, you know that you're procrastinating, you actually end up feeling negative about your writing. And this starts to extend to the whole thing, and it starts to sap your motivation. That's really crazy, because sapped motivation and then trying to push through despite that leads to burnout. And burnout is terrible. I try to avoid that at all costs in my authors, even though many authors come to me because they hit burnout. And let me tell you, it is hard to crawl your way back from that pit. Now, being productive as a writer is not rocket science, but a part of it is definitely science. And there are also many hacks involved in how to be more productive. If you are taking a look at my course from Idea to Published in 6 months, you're going to be getting all of those hacks. I created that course so that you stop wasting time, that you finally get more productive. I take out the guesswork and I let you know which tasks you should be doing when, and then I give you all the extra little hacks that help you to introduce more productivity into your everyday as a writer. Let's talk about some of those hacks right here in the podcast, and definitely you'll be getting more of that if you are in the course, and you'll be getting more of that if you are in my Writing Coach on Demand program, which helps you to get some real writing help in just like 15 minutes of office hour. They're one of my favorite productivity and writing hacks, but let's talk about the other ones. The first one is to set specific, measurable, important, audacious goals for your writing. These should be specific with a time added to them. I like goals to be relatively short term, at least as first, when you're not being super motivated. So just say to yourself, okay, I want an immediate goal, which is like, I want to write 500 words today. That's a great goal because it keeps you motivated in the short term. And then you can have a longer term goal, which is like, I want to write 5,000 words this week. That is going to work if each day you're going towards that goal. So that's a real productivity hack, which is to have a specific goal and break it down into measurable, specific, smaller goals. Another productivity hack is to definitely prioritize your writing by scheduling specific time blocks for that writing. You know how you schedule in a meeting, you'll schedule in an appointment, you'll schedule in a pedicure, but so many of us don't schedule in our writing. It's bizarre. And when we don't schedule it in and we're just kind of jumping in and doing it randomly, we tend to let any distraction really shift our focus and take us away from what we're supposed to be doing because, again, we didn't prioritize. So that's a massive productivity hack. It's as simple as just writing into your calendar, I'm writing from this hour to this hour, or even if an hour is too much, here's my next hack, the Pomodoro technique. The Pomodoro technique is using writing sprints, and not just for writing. You can use the Pomodoro technique for all kinds of stuff, and I'm actually going to devote a whole portion of the podcast to using sprints because I think they work so well. Especially if you have ADHD, it's really hard to focus for like a whole hour. That's huge. Brain science says that few of us are able to focus for that long without burnout. We do need to take a break. So using a 20 or 25 minute increment with a short break in between is going to really help you to stay focused, avoid burnout, and be more productive. It's proven that we actually work faster when we have less time. And in fact, for some of my more severely ADHD clients, I usually tell them to even put the timer on for only 5 minutes. And P.S., I say put on the timer because no, I don't want you to just tell yourself, oh, it's on my phone, I'll keep checking. No. I want that timer counting down. Psychologically, it makes a huge difference. Remember how I said that many writers don't really create a routine and they don't prioritize their writing, I think that creating a routine is actually kind of a great way of being more productive, not just because you're prioritizing, not just because you're like staying on track with how much time you're writing consistently, but also because your brain starts to kind of get warmed up. It starts to know what to expect and it starts to get into the zone a lot faster. For many of my writers who've fallen out of love with the project and who feel like they're not in that flow state so much anymore, creating a routine and then doing sprints is kind of the hack to get around that. Another thing that some of my writers do is that they use productivity tools, things that are going to keep you organized and kind of motivated by showing you your progress. So there are these basic productivity tools like Trello or Asana, but then there are the writing productivity tools like Scrivener. Now, I personally don't use these tools, but then I use things like notes, checklists, things like that to keep myself organized. And there is no right answer as to what works. The only wrong answer is using nothing. That's not great. But if it's just even doing a checklist on a notebook or a piece of scrap paper, that's really cool too. I talked about breaking down big projects into smaller tasks. I decided to repeat it because I think that that's really, really important. And the breaks are really, really important too. Finally, what's really funny is that so many authors are going to take away from their sleep to be more productive. So I've heard too many writers, especially moms, be like, you know what? I've decided that if this is important to me, I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. and I'm going to do it before everybody wakes up. Okay, honestly, maybe that's the answer, but maybe that's going to make you overtired. And here's the thing, having enough sleep is crucial for productivity and for your energy and for your creativity. You really need to stay focused and energized, and not sleeping enough is probably not the way to do that. And finally, you're going to want to be able to figure out how to either eliminate distractions or create just enough distractions so that you can be focusing on your work. So how can you avoid the things that slow you down? Maybe environmentally. So can you be working in a quiet environment like a library, or can you be working in a bustling environment, but that motivates you like a coffee shop? And are there ways of kind of closing down your social media or notifications or anything else that's going to keep you from being productive? Think about how to do that. But you've got to remember, everyone's different, right? Everyone has different ways of being more productive. So I'm not telling you that each and every one of these hacks is going to work for you. It's really something that you need to experiment with, especially as a writer. You're a creative. You kind of are going to need a little bit more discipline and a little bit more testing, because I think that if once you find the right thing, you're going to be increasing your writing productivity, hitting your writing goals. But if you're finding the wrong thing and trying to push through with that, you're only going to be heading to burnout. Now, here's one of my favorite hacks when it comes to productivity. It's called batching. Batching is a productivity technique that kind of has you grouping similar tasks together and completing them in one pre-established time block, rather than doing kind of, sporadic bursts of these things throughout the day or doing them when you think of it. Usually certain tasks are going to fall through the little net. You're going to go, uh-oh, I totally forgot to do this task and that task. Now, if you're batching, you're going to be doing them more systematically. So let me give you some tips on how I use batching to increase productivity and how you can use batching to increase your productivity as a writer and in your writer platform and in your writer life. So the first thing you do is that you're going to figure out which tasks are similar. In your writing, you've got a gazillion things to do. In the introduction, I mentioned how we've got not only the writing part, but we've got the editing parts. We've got the researching parts. We've got the things like, putting together social media posts. We've got things like that. We've got querying. We've got whatever it is. Doing those things all at once, grouping them together, can really help you to stay focused and to minimize this thing called context switching. When you switch contexts, it slows you down. And that actually makes you lose time because you're going to need new tools. You're going to need to get a new mindset, a new focus when you're doing something radically different. But when you're batching, you're in the same context, so you can kind of stay in the zone. Schedule this batching time pretty carefully. So Even if you're doing a few hours for things like research or outlining or whatever, you want to schedule it ahead of time, schedule a nice big block, but definitely use a timer to do some sprints within this batching. Because that way you can minimize interruptions that don't serve you. If you turn off notifications and stuff like that, you probably, if you're like me and you're totally addicted to your social media and to your phone, you're probably agonizing, going, oh my God, what if I didn't answer something that's pretty, urgent? But if you're doing a sprint of like 20 minutes and then you give yourself 5 minutes to check your social media, your emails, and then you take a 5-minute break, that's going to help you to eliminate distractions during all the other times. So definitely use a timer and stick to those batching sprints between the breaks. And when I say take breaks, I am serious. You definitely do not want to skip the break part because it's crucial. It's really part of the whole productivity thing. And definitely, I would say that I use batching. So I use it also for social media. Like I'll do a bunch of social media posts. Today, I've been using batching to do a bunch of podcast episodes because my researching for the podcast, I did that as a batch. And then I did recording as a batch because I have to set up my equipment. I have to set up all that stuff. And it's really helpful for me to then next batch is going to be my editing batch and then my graphics batch for how I'm going to promote these episodes and then uploading as a batch. All of that works really well. I feel that it helps me to get into the flow. And then for writing is going to be the same thing. Like I can create all my character aesthetics in the same day, or I can kind of do editing of different scenes in the same day, all kinds of stuff that you can do as a batch. Now, my next favorite productivity hack is reusing content. This one is the hardest one to get through to my writers because so many writers are highly creative and they're always doing new stuff. Like the minute you are doing something old or reusing something, you lose interest. Okay, but that's you. When it comes to your writer platform and social media, your audience is not seeing every single thing you post. And also, it takes a while for people to become conscious that you're out there talking about your stuff. So the more often you're out there, the better. But coming up with new content all the time, especially when you're meant to be being original with your writing, that's going to take so much brain power and so much time. It's not the best use of your creativity and of your originality. So you're going to be reusing and repurposing things because this is not cheating, believe me. So first of all, if you're writing blog posts or articles, you can repurpose these by breaking them down into smaller bite-sized pieces of content. And this can be turned into social media posts, whether they are videos, podcasts, infographics, or anything in between. You can share snippets of your writing as well, like your fiction. People eat this stuff up. If you're sharing snippets of your writing on social media, you can really entice your followers. You can give them a taste of your writing style. They're going to get excited about what happens next. So you can use quotes from your writing. And this is such shareable content. It resonates with your audience a lot. And I think that that's really, really cool. So now when it comes to reusing and batching, you can create a whole series of posts or social media posts. And when you're creating a series, it really helps you to figure out how this is going to work together and how it's going to work, as you kind of drip it out to build anticipation and to keep your followers engaged. And also it's going to feel like it's more on brand because you are creating these things as a series. So it feels like it's more cohesive. I think that really works really well. Also, your writer life is full of various tasks that feel not very glamorous, but they actually are really fascinating to some people in your audience. So think about behind the scenes content. What is your writing process like? What are you having as you have your writing break? What are you thinking about as you research your writing? What's your writing space like? Like your followers want to get a glimpse into your life as a writer, and documenting these things is actually a great way of using your writing time in a way that's more fun. Like you could be documenting this during a break in other writing tasks, And that's really cool. And finally, you can definitely be reposting old content. I know that you feel that, oh, been there, done that. But guess what? It's still relevant and valuable to your followers. New followers can be discovering your content. Like, not all of your followers are there at the same time. You're getting new followers every day, and those can get real value for something. And they don't necessarily scroll back to day one of when you were posting on social media or making TikTok videos. So it's really great to recirculate some of your popular subjects pretty often. Like, this is something that I too often forget to do. And when I do it, I always find that it's pretty rewarding. The other funny thing is that when you're repurposing this content, or when you're sharing evergreen content, you're going to start to see that even though you're reposting something that was really popular a while back, and then all of a sudden it doesn't get the same response, or maybe you didn't get much of a response before, but you think it's useful and you're re-releasing it, and then you think to yourself, wow, it actually resonated a lot more this time. I think that helps you to start to see that, that the social media algorithm doesn't always promote stuff just because it's good or just because it's useful. Sometimes it's just the time that you posted it or something else, and you're going to start to get a thicker skin about things that didn't necessarily work right there and then. So that's really important. I think that providing value to your followers doesn't mean you killing yourself trying to come up with things that are always original all the time. But the more you do this and the more you reuse and repurpose, the more creative you're going to get about it. Because I think it's so important to stay consistent in content creation and posting, but this can really make you burn out if you're spending too much time making content rather than doing your writing and building your author platform. So very, very important. Okay, so when we are writing, how can we write faster? Writing faster is such a simple way of being more productive with the actual writing part of the thing. Writing faster is such a valuable skill for writers because you definitely want to increase your output. Remember how I said that the more books you have, the more discoverable you are? That's so true. So what are my tips to write faster? First of all, obviously my favorite writing sprints, Pomodoro method, so important. You're going to challenge yourself to write as much as you can during a certain time period. This really helps you to stay focused, and it's kind of like this practice that can keep improving. Another thing you can do is that when you feel stuck and you're like, oh, I'm just going to sit there in front of the blank page, don't do that. Use a writing prompt, write something, anything, or quickly jump to another task so that you don't feel like you're blocked. That really doesn't help. Eliminating distractions or even trying some kind of white noise or brown noise might really help you to get into the zone, to get writing faster, because being in that flow state definitely helps you to get a lot of words out there. Creating an outline is another thing that helps you to write faster. Those of you who fight the whole outline thing, go back and listen to the podcast about outlines. I'm telling you, they save you time in the long run. They really, really help. Now, here's something that sounds so obvious and stupid, but I know writers who are terrible typists. And honestly, learning touch typing, you might be embarrassed. You might feel like that ship has sailed. You might feel like, you know what, I type fast enough, but learning to touch type can help you to write so much faster with so much more accuracy. And it can just help you to just, again, get more into that zone and write faster. And of course, my favorite, voice recognition, dictation, or transcription, man, that helps you to write thousands of words. And even when you're in a situation where you feel like you're not being productive, like I do this on a road trip, talk about increased productivity. Me being able to dictate my writing during a road trip makes me be able to just get those scenes knocked out faster than I ever thought possible. Do you need to edit after you do that? Absolutely. But having words to edit is definitely a gift. Setting goals also helps you to write quickly and efficiently. If you're like, I am not going to get up until I've written 500 words, that's definitely going to help. And it takes practice. Don't think that this is going to be happening from the get-go. It's not. You are going to need to practice. At first, it's going to feel super awkward and weird, and you're going to feel like, the quality of your writing is going down. And of course, that's true. There's got to be a balance between quantity and quality, but remember not to edit as you go, because there's nothing worse. When it comes to slowing yourself down and breaking your focus, that self-editing can be really, really disruptive. Finally, I have to say that when I talk about the brain science hacks like, batching or taking breaks or Pomodoro method or establishing these goals, finally, one of the biggest things that I have to say is that your self-talk, whatever you tell yourself, definitely impacts you more than you ever thought. So if you're telling yourself, I'm not being productive, I'm such a procrastinator, I am sucking at this week, like that's going to be true. So I think that you really need to practice using positive self-talk when it comes to how productive you are and how motivated and focused you are. So use those positive affirmations. Just be like, yeah, I'm a good writer and I can meet these deadlines and I'm going to get this done and I'm kicking ass today and I'm in the get shit done society. All of those things really do boost not only your confidence, but definitely in a very real way, your productivity. I hope that this short but sweet podcast episode helped you to see how you can be more productive than ever. I hope that it maybe tempted you to give me a call and see how you can best work with a writing coach to help you be more productive and be more motivated than ever before so that you can get that book done and published and get on to the next one. And if you're at all interested in maybe checking out my masterclass from idea to published in 6 months, I really encourage you to head over to my website, www.creativeandwritingcoach.com. Go to online courses for writers, and you will see that from idea to published in 6 months, it is such a radical concept to really give you everything you need to be so productive and get everything done without any of the extra BS. Highly recommend. I worked on this thing for a long time to help you out. So that is it. Thank you for joining me. I look so forward to being with you next time on the How to Be an Author podcast. If you have any pressing writing-related questions or would like to be featured on the How to Be an Author podcast, please feel free to reach out on my website, creativeandwritingcoach.com.